You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. On Ireland's 6th Demics official, welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you but doesn't judge you, at least not as harshly as the rest of your family. So make sure you refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. Chris Voss won the TikTok and all those crazy places in it. Today, amazing young man on the show. We're going to be talking about his book called How to Talk to Anybody. Learn the secrets to small talk, business management, sales, and social conversations, and how to make real friends. Basically, communication skills, as it were. Out March 10th, 2022. Derek Borthwick is joining us on the show. We're going to get into him and learn a lot of cool stuff about how to improve the quality of your life. He helps professionals eliminate fear, speak with confidence, and influence others, whether on stage, in meetings, or across the negotiating table. As a best-selling author of 6 books on communication, public speaking, sales, body language, and mindset, including the aforementioned book, he's helped over 100,000 readers and professionals master the skills they need to thrive in business and life. He delivers live training across Europe, the Middle East, and U.S. for clients, including Informa and major investment firms. His sessions focus on real-world results, helping professionals speak with authority, clear, and lead with credibility, and convert influence into action. Welcome to the show. How are you, Derek?
I'm doing great, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. Super
Thanks
excited to be here.
And we're super excited to have you. Give us a .com. How can people find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can also find me on the website, which is power and then the number 2 and then mind.com. And of course, I'm all over Amazon as well. So just type in my name and my books will appear whichever country you're in.
So give us a 30,000 overview. What's in this book?
Yeah, this book this all came about, I'll give you a little background. This came about because I realized that a lot of people were struggling with communication skills. So what this does is it gives you the psychology of how people are wired. So once you understand that, and also the mindset, which is really, really important, and there's also some formulas and some structures that if you follow, you can pretty much speak to anybody. It shows you how to speak, to do small talk, how to engage with anyone, and how to really capture people's attention. And, addressing some of the key psychological biases that people are hardwired to. I'll give you an example of one, if you like.
Sure, please.
So you imagine you get your iPhone or your Samsung or whatever, and you're with a group of friends, and you say to you say to me, well, I'll tell you what, Derek, you take a picture of me and my friends. And I say, yeah, sure. So I take a picture of you, and then I give you the phone back. Who do you look at first in the picture?
Me.
Exactly, yeah. Even if you've got kids, right? You don't tell your other half that, right? But we do. So everybody is remarkably self-centered. So one of the key learning points is get people talking about their favorite topic, which is
them.
Exactly. So the sooner you do that, the sooner you'll start building rapport. It's pretty easy. The theory is anyway.
Being interested in people, I don't know if it's an art form. I've always been a story collector my life, so I've loved hearing people's stories, collecting their stories. Maybe it's because I'm sick of my story. I tell people, like, how come you enjoy podcasting, Chris? I'm like, I'm sick of hearing about me and my stories. I like when people come on and tell me what they did with their lives, and I'm like, I should have maybe done that, or that sounds really interesting. I suppose most of my life I was obsessed about me, but now I kind of enjoy being obsessed about other people because, I don't know, sometimes their stuff is more interesting. I'm like, yeah, I should have done that. But being curious about people, I think, is really, I don't know if it's a developed skill. I mean, I grew up not liking people and being an introvert, so maybe it is. What do you think? Is it a developed skill to be interested in people and care other than yourself?
Hey, listen, yeah, I think you can definitely learn this. I'll let you into a little secret. When I was a child, I was very, very shy. Do you know, I was so shy when I was a young child, I wouldn't even go to nursery school.
Wow.
I was always too old to go, but the cutoff date by the time I finally went.
Oh, wow.
This is a skill you can learn. And a bit like what you said there, Chris, what I've done in the past is I've modeled people. So I've looked at people who are charismatic, people who are able to captivate people. And I thought, well, what is it they do?
Mm-hmm.
And I've come up with various formulas and ways of analyzing people and showing an interest. And you hit the nail right on the head. The key thing is, sure, you can read all the books and you can have all the step-by-step processes and ways to go about this. But the real secret is to develop an intense desire to get to know someone.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the secret. And then what you find is the same principles of body language is the outer expression is a reflection of the inner thought. Mm-hmm. So if you can start getting your mindset right that you want to get to know someone, guess what? All the nonverbals and your voice and everything else starts to mirror that. And you become more interesting. And the thing is, Chris, if you want to be seen as more interesting, or interested, it's as simple as that.
Yeah. And you have to be sincere about it. One of my favorite, I always forget his name, the great comic who passed away recently, but he would insult people on stage, kind of troll them on stage. And he would even say, be able to get away with stuff that most people would consider racist now. But he would do it in a way that would make people laugh, sometimes a little sharp, but he would also, he would tell jokes about himself. But people would know, and he would talk about this. He goes, people know that it's a joke, that I'm having fun with them, that I care, that I still care. And it's not that I don't care or that I'm being hateful. They know that's genuine. And people, like you say, they feel that through the way you approach them. We do 3 shows a day, Monday through Thursday on the Chris Voss Show. That's 12 shows a week, 48 a month. Assuming everyone shows up. Last week we had a couple reschedules, but people are like, the math doesn't work here, Chris. Well, people do reschedule, folks, every now and then. But so I make 12 new friends a week, 3 new friends a day, and usually I'm meeting people like yourself in the green room for the first time, and people catch on if you genuinely care about them, or if you're just, you're just like whatever, another guest or some guy with a story, I don't know, one of these, they're going to catch on to that, right?
They do. I had a bizarre experience recently, actually, where somebody asked me to come on the podcast. And you know what the intro was, Chris? You're going to love this.
What?
I don't know anything about you or what you do. That was my intro. So I politely declined to participate in the show because this is not going to really work very well at all. And you're absolutely right, because when we look at the way the mind's got 2 parts. You have the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. So the conscious mind reads the content. That's the PowerPoint presentation with the size 6 font and 500 slide deck. The unconscious mind reads the intent. Now, that's the key thing. And a big thing when I'm training people on public speaking, it's really quite difficult at times. In fact, the smarter they are, sometimes the harder it is to get them to realize this, that people won't remember what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel. And that's the key thing.
That's why I always punch everyone in the face when I get done talking to them.
That's one strategy, isn't it? It doesn't always work that well. But if you can be playful, Chris, the more playful you are, the more charismatic you are. You often see people who are very charismatic, they're playful. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be in a business meeting juggling balls and breathing fire. But hey, I don't remember any contract for any company I've worked for, Chris, where they said, look, you can't have fun. There's no smiling in here. I will admit some of the American banks did actually, it looked like they had that in the terms and conditions, but it wasn't specifically laid out. So if you can have a bit of fun what you're doing, you'll come across better and people will enjoy your company better.
Yeah. And that's really important. We live in a world where, I run a huge dating group, about 5,000 people, and it seems like COVID really, and the alienation of COVID, the shock of it, I think some people are still damaged by, I mean, there was a moment there where we just thought it was all going to go to hell. And, no one knew what was going on. That was the absurdity of the experience, because no one knew it was going to happen, and we'd all watch the movies. Like there was that one movie I watched with Dustin Hoffman, I think it was, where the monkeys got this disease and it was just killing people. Like it was just slaughter across the board. But what's interesting is that's come out of COVID is I really feel broke our society in a lot of ways, even in our politics and everything. And so I see people now that they really struggle. Like we host in my dating group in-person meetups, and they're not forced ones like with matchmaking or whatever. They just can come to a bar and they can mingle, and if they find somebody they like, get to know them better. And I have like 5,000 people in the group, but we can only get out maybe 100 people out at a time, because people are afraid. They literally tell this to me. They're afraid to meet people. And I'm like, well, if you want to date and meet your partner or whatever it is you want for life and another person, you kind of have to eventually meet them in person.
You kind of do, Chris. It's a bit tricky otherwise, online.
Tricky. Same thing with jobs, That's the other thing I tell them. They're like, well, I'm afraid of going to public places where there's a bunch of single people. And I'm like, you walk into 7-Eleven and a gas station every day like it's your home. Yeah. And it's filled with fucking strangers. You go to a concert and you're with like 10,000 other strangers and you're fine with that. But God forbid you should go someplace where, I don't know, you might meet the person who changes your whole life.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of strange. I mean, the whole small talk thing, people really, really struggle with it.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things you can do. I mean, for the first thing is if you start asking a personal question, if I come up to you and we've never met and say, hey, I like your hat. It's a little bit too personal too early on. Now, with guys, maybe it's okay, but with women of the other opposite sex, we need to be a bit more careful with that. So the best way to do it is you talk about the situation, the occasion, or the location. That's the best way to do it. For example, if you were at a networking event, it kind of goes like this, Chris. Hi, what's your name? And where are you from? And what do you do? And what's your job in the company? And then it kind of goes silent because people don't know how to do the dance, the verbal dance. And it's quite simple, really. You just do this. You ask somebody a question. I'll give you the simple version first, and there's a more advanced one. You ask a question, and then you make a small comment, and then you ask another question, which is an open question. So if I said to you, it'd be something like, Chris, how long have you been conducting podcasts for?
16 years.
Now, I would then make a comment. 16 years, that's a long time. You must have had some very interesting guests on the show. Small comment. Tell me, who was the most interesting you had on?
A couple of billionaires. It was interesting to have their perspective. Yeah.
All right. Do you see how we're starting just to chat away? So I'm getting you to, and I'm asking.
And you're listening to what I'm saying.
Yeah. Now, what I was doing there as well, people sharp of ear, they'll notice I was actually echoing back. Yeah. So I said billionaires. Now, when I've done this, I did this recently, actually. I was actually out in Dubai doing some training recently. And I was talking about this echo technique, which is what you basically echo back what somebody says. Now, if they're very verbose and they use lots of long words and long sentences, it can get tricky. And somebody said to me, they said, well, I don't think this echoing thing's going to work. And I said, oh, so you don't think the echoing thing's going to work? And they said, no, I think it's too obvious. And I went, oh, so you think it's too obvious? They went, yeah. I think I'll be spotted. And I said, well, so you think you'd be spotted? And this went on. And eventually people started laughing. And I said, and they went, what's so funny? I said, I've just been echoing you. And then the others were laughing. They said, well, it wouldn't happen to me. I said, well, I was echoing you 5 minutes ago. So it's it sounds manipulative, but it's not really. What it does is it forces you to listen. And also they use it from therapy, Chris. This comes to the world of therapy. And it shows you're listening. And it's a very good way to stop because we've got two worlds. We've got the external world that I'm looking out through my eyes at the moment, but I've also got the internal world, which is the little voice inside and the mental pictures. And the challenge when you're speaking to somebody is to make sure they're uptime and not thinking of what am I going to do at the weekend, or where should I go for a beer, or, what movie am I going to see? So that's the trick. And by doing this, it really makes sure you're on uptime. People really feel listened to. I'd urge your listeners to try it. Try it with people who don't necessarily do your biggest business meeting. You got to convince yourself, because don't believe a word I say. Just try it. Yeah. It works.
Well, people, there's a lot of times where when you talk to people, like especially if they ask you what job you do, they're more like sizing you up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're trying to decide, I should be friends with this person. Do they have enough social status, career status, money
Yeah.
status that I should like them. It's kind of a, is my dick bigger than yours sort of whip out thing. And there's people that do that. Like you go to conferences and network and it's like, what do you do? And then you're like, I'm just a secretary. And they go this, they're like, oh, huh, that's nice to see you. Bye. They walk off, And it's really, it can be really judgy. And you're like, well, what the fuck, dude? You don't care about me. You're just trying to decide if I'm up to your hierarchy of tier that you think you're on. You could probably be fired from tomorrow, or I can. But yeah, go ahead. And so that mirroring really helps people. I was going to tell the joke too. The other way that I use mirroring is when people insult me. So they go, "You're a jerk," and I go, "You're a jerk," and they go, "You're a jerk," and I go, "You're a jerk," and then that just happens 500 times. And they go, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm mirroring you, trying to gain rapport."
Yeah, and that kind of works as well. Yeah, but there's something weird that goes on in conferences, Chris.
Somewhere in there, someone gets punched in your face. Sorry,
but when you go to conferences and there's something weird that happens. People start behaving really weird in business environments, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this one of them is when they go to these conferences and they start doing networking. And it doesn't matter who you're speaking to; they're always looking around at somebody else to see if there's somebody more interesting to speak to.
Yeah,
you could be like
that's kind of that whose dick is bigger questionnaire they do, right?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find the most important person in the room. Maybe is there.
Yeah, and then I'll tell you another one in business that's really strange is and again trying to get this through to people when I'm training, because I do a lot of public speaking training, which combines all the books, all the material from all the different disciplines, and it's really quite difficult to get people away from facts and get to tell stories. Could you imagine, Chris, if you and I went for a drink and I said, Chris, the average temperature in Los Angeles is so many degrees Fahrenheit?
Really?
Did you know the average rainfall in Paris is so many inches? Did you know the tallest mountain in Scotland is this? You'd be like, hey, Derek, what's wrong with you? What's in your sugar bowl? What's going on here,
Yeah.
We tell stories. So why do we start behaving weird when we're in business? It doesn't mean because you're in business, you've got to start relaying fact after fact after fact after fact and using it like an encyclopedia. You've got to start telling stories. That's how we communicate.
And I think, I kind of realized I was a storyteller and collector with the gentleman on CNN who used to be the big radio interviewer, Don King. No, that's not Don King. I forget his name. King. People know who he is, I'm sure. He's on TV forever on CNN. But, he said one time, I remember watching it, kind of just stuck an arrow in my brain, where he said, you have to genuinely really care about people. And he goes, anywhere I go, I talk to people and I'm interested in them. And they sense that I'm interested in, and I'm acutely aware, I think of myself as a story collector. And so people really know if you're really interested in them, if you really are asking questions that you're sincerely care about being empathetic towards them, and I've collected amazing stories from people all my life, whether it's on the podcast or on an airplane. I have this habit where if I sit down in an airplane, there's, two people sitting around me, I immediately say hello to them. Sometimes I'll shake their hand if I think I can get away with that, but I break that ice right away.
Yeah.
Same thing with the elevator. I might pop a joke in the elevator right away. And like you say, you just use location, like, flight travel. It's wild, huh? And, people, even they'll make the small talk. They'll go, yeah, it is. And they kind of like that someone's breaking the ice. And a lot of times I can have I've had the whole back of the plane laughing at my idiot, stupid jokes. I'm the one entertaining, and they're so uncomfortable. It's you're in that little box in the elevator, and it's kind of a weird silence. And I think people hate that. So anytime you can break that up, anytime you can enlighten their lives, and and sometimes just telling stories and hear other people's stories. I remember seeing a guy on the plane, and he had this weird, clearly some sort of prosthetic for a human being. I think it was like a knee or something. It was really weird. It wasn't like an arm or a leg. And I was like, what is that thing? That was like some kind of bionic $6 million man thing you got there. What is that? Because he was holding it in the seat. And then the whole 2 rows, we were all laughing. They he tells us this interesting story about this thing. And so for me, it makes life so much more richer, because all I'm going to do in my city is sit there and stew about how poorly I was treated at TSA, how long lines were, how long we're sitting there waiting, how uncomfortable it is, how the air conditioning is not working on the fucking plane, right?
Yeah.
And all those things that you can be miserable about in your own head, or, thinking about your stupid problems and shit. And so for me, talking to other people, it makes everyone else feel better. It makes me feel better.
Yeah.
So, the genuineness is really important. You really have to care because people will
You do, Chris. And I think if you can develop, it all comes to the mindset. If you can have the mindset of curiosity, so you have this genuine desire to get to know someone, but a curiosity, and I'll give you a couple of examples where this is some kind of weird stories, really. Outside, normally I'm in Europe and it's pretty dark here at the moment, so I've got a screen up. Normally you'd be looking at a nice window and you see trees and everything. Well, out the back there would be, or out the front, there would be, a few years ago, there was guys digging the road. Now, I went over, most people ignore them, but I went over and I started chatting to the work guys because I was curious. I said, when you're changing the gas main, how does it work? Because where does the gas go? And what do the houses do that haven't got it? So he started explaining all this. Now, at that time, my youngest son was obsessed with diggers. Now, or you would call them backhoe, I think, in the US. Backhoe, I think they're called. So my son was obsessed with going at these things that dig the road. Anyway, an excavator. The language barrier is falling down a bit here. Anyway, my son was fascinated with this. Now, because I'd shown interest in this, the guy let him go up, sit in the digger, and play about with it. All because I'd shown an interest. There was another time, a bizarre one, where I went to a hotel in Luxembourg, and I was checking in. And the guy came out and he had quite a long beard. It was a bit longer than yours, Chris. It was a kind of heading towards ZZ Top style.
Oh, ZZ Top.
Yeah, well, not quite. But, it was a longish one. He was obviously, so I knew having a long beard like that takes effort. And he'd be proud of it. So I just mentioned, I said, I'm curious, how long does it take to grow the beard? Blah, blah, blah. Before you knew it, he was out the back. He got his phone. He was showing me pictures of all his beard style. He then started showing me pictures of his family. He then upgraded me to a room and said, oh, and then he saw me the next day. He said, oh, I've just seen your website. You can come and do some training for us. And then when I was checking out, the guy went in and the normal checkout guy went out the way, and the manager came over and said, I'll deal with Mr. Borthwick. And I was given, upgraded and everything. It was fantastic just because I'd actually shown an interest in somebody else. Now, here's the key thing. If you can really find out what somebody's real passion is, and you ask them about that, you watch how quickly you build rapport. Now, I sometimes I call it fishing, Chris, for fun, right? So what I'll do is I'll find people who've got poor communication skills, and I'll say something like, I'm just writing a new book. And they'll go, all right. So I'll go, so I've been fishing. I'll get my rod out and I'll have another go. So I go, I think this one's going to be a really good seller. It'll be really popular. And they'll go, all right. And it goes on. So it's actually, I do it for fun. But what you should be doing is saying, oh, really, Derek, that sounds interesting. Tell me, what's the book about? And ask a few questions before. You don't have to be, right into my books or me particularly, but just asking a few questions. Because anyone who's written a book knows it takes a lot of work. It's not something It's not
a lot of people can complete it. And I think that's why it's so highly valued.
Yeah. So as soon as you can press that hot button, because you're pretty much away. And the key thing is, here's the other thing: if you can find out they've got an unusual hobby, and you can talk a bit about that, you're away. Now you can talk about a hobby. I had a conversation with somebody over lunch years ago about rowing. Now I know nothing about rowing. It was one of the this advanced rowing like they do in the Olympics. I knew nothing about it, but at the end of it, the guy thought I did because I was just asking intelligent questions. Things like what's the boat made of, or how do they allocate the weight? Is there a power to weight ratio, and how do you what's the difference between a good rowing team and a bad rowing team? And so I was just asking because I was genuinely interested. What I did was I got the mindset that I wanted to, which I did actually. I wanted to learn about rowing because I knew nothing about it. So it was a great conversation, and the guy said to me, he goes, "Oh, you're a great conversationalist." I thought, I haven't really said anything. I've just asked you a load of questions.
Yeah. I mean, asking questions, being interested. I always, way I find out about people's hobbies, like you said, is I just ask what's their sexual kink. That doesn't work so well, especially just when it's right off the cuff and the small talk. And, hi, how you doing? I'm Chris Voss, the Chris Voss Show. So let me ask you, what's your sexual kink? And then they're all offended. And I'm like, well, I'm just trying to get to know you. I read Derek's book, and I'm just trying to, ask questions about any habits you have.
Yeah,
Things you like.
that chapter.
Maybe you like swinging. I don't know. It's, I'm just trying to build a rapport. Damn it.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have put that chapter in, Chris.
Yeah, there are some things maybe you should take your time into, like at least 5 minutes in the conversation before you pull the, what's your OnlyFans URL? That always works out good at business conferences too. That's always great. HR says they can't do that anymore, or else. Sure. Now, if you're in Vegas going to a business convention, but after you're going to Spearmint Rhino, you can ask people that question. Anyway, I don't know what that means. I don't even know what Spearmint Rhino means. It just I just made up a name. Anyway, let's talk about some of the offerings you have on your website at powertomind.com.
Yeah, some of them. Well, what I've got, Chris, you see, people are, we're all just that bit lazy, right? So we like to have an easy route. If there's, as Henry Ford once said, one of my favorite quotes is, thinking is one of the hardest things that anyone can do, which is why so few people do it. And if you look around the world, you'll probably see that. So if there's an easy way to do something and a hard way, people would like the easy way. So what I've done is I've recorded these special audio programs that program your mind. So they've got ones for confidence, one for fear of public speaking, one's for charisma on demand, one's for motivation. There's about 10 of them, I think, and about 10, and the one for sleeping as well. And the great thing about these is you do absolutely nothing. You just put your headphones on, you chill out, close your eyes, relax, and this will help program your mind. So I've had some fantastic results from these from clients. I got a nice testimonial on the website there. If somebody used it, he said, I've been using your programs. He had gone from an introvert to actually being interviewed live on TV. It was something I couldn't have done, a few months ago.
Yeah.
So these are some of the products I got. I'm working on other things, or courses, and also I've got a new YouTube channel coming out. So these products are very, very useful, and you actually get a free one that comes with the book. So that helps you learn the information in the book better. And then if you want to buy some more, that's cool. If you want to focus on specific ones like confidence, or public speaking, or present like a pro, they're all available for you.
And people can take a look at the website. They can hire you. So you got transformational audio, books, training, coaches, and then can people work with you directly?
Yeah, absolutely. I've just been doing actually one-to-one coaching this week with somebody out in Abu Dhabi who has a big presentation coming up. So I help execs do their pitches. I help them do town halls. I work with anybody really who wants to improve their presentation and communication skills. And there's a few knacks online as well, a few tricks you can do, because we're all on Zoom these days or Teams. So, there's a few things you can do to bring that alive. Because I'm sure your viewers will have heard this week. It's that sentence, Chris, that just kills any presentation. I'm just going to share my screen. And up comes the usual slide with size 6 font that's so confusing, even Einstein can't understand it. The double axis chart, and they go on and on. These people are what I call PowerPoint hypnotists. Mm-hmm. There was a hypnotist I actually follow, and he came out with a great line. And he actually said, the problem is, it's not getting people into trance. It's getting them out of the trance they're in at the moment. And that's the issue. Now, when you have these PowerPoint presenters, they literally, it's like holidays. Imagine, Chris, have you been on holiday recently?
No, they don't allow me out of the cage when I'm not on the podcast.
When was the last holiday you were on?
I kind of take weekend holidays all the time. I go on shooting jaunts, and where they're kind of holidays where I just go wander and shoot for a whole day.
Do you take any pictures when you're there?
Oh yeah, I'm a photographer, so I go out and I just shoot for a whole day.
Okay, well, so imagine that we go around and I pop around your house and I say, where have you been, Chris? You say, I've been out shooting. I said, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, because if you popped around my house without shooting, it would set off the alarms.
So you then show me, I said, have you got any pictures? So you get your phone out and you show me the first picture. I go, that's fabulous, Chris. Where's that? Yeah. You tell me. Then you get the second one. And I go, that's great. And then we get to the third one. And then the fourth one. And then the fifth one. So you get where I'm going, holiday snaps. Now, if that's somebody's holiday snaps, why do people think it's going to be any different when you're doing a PowerPoint presentation? You got to break it up. Yeah. Ideally, about every 6 minutes, you need to do something different.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So you help them do these presentations and know how to do stuff. Yeah, I can see how that can be. The PowerPoint stuff can be a little, half the time it gets lost too if they struggle with the technology or the technology's not working right. Like how come the button's not working? That sort of gear. And if you would, and so yeah, that's kind of crazy how that whole thing can work.
Well, it's far better if you can do it without slides. I mean, because I'm old enough to have done it before we had all these technology. But it's a kind of strange thing, Chris. As soon as you say to somebody, I'd like you to do a presentation, you can see fire tracks running out the room as they scurry off to get PowerPoint done. People are going to remember, PowerPoint is not the presentation. I'll say that again. PowerPoint is not the presentation. It is an aid to the presentation. You are the presentation. Now, the best speakers that I've witnessed use hardly any slides, and they've managed to keep my attention for 3 days. I get quite a lot of feedback that's very favorable, and people say, how can you manage to keep our attention for 2-3 days? I do these 3 days training. And it's simple. I don't use PowerPoint slides. I speak like a human, speak from the heart, and get them doing stuff, because people want to do stuff. They don't want to sit and listen to me. And you don't learn communication skills and presenting or public speaking, but from an armchair. You get it from getting up. In fact, there's something I heard years ago, Chris. I like this. It's just come to mind. It was a guy who was one of these motivational type speakers. And he said, right, he goes, I'm going to teach you all how to be really successful. And he said, everyone went, right, okay. So everybody stand up.
Mm-hmm.
He said, then he took the chair, and he said, take your chairs and turn them upside down. And on the bottom of the chair was an envelope. And inside was, I think it was a $10 bill or something like that.
Oh.
And the guy said, there's the first rule of life. If you want to be successful, get up off your ass. So the same with public speaking and presenting. You don't learn it from an armchair. Sure, my audio is going to help you with a mind state, but you've still got to do some of the exercises. And that's what I do when I'm training.
You have to do the work. I mean, I can't just buy the book and not read it and expect to learn by osmosis, just being near it. That's what.
Well, the thing is, some people actually do, but all the materials in the book. So what some people do, the diligent ones, are they highlight it. I get emails all the time saying it was great, they enjoyed it, it's really helped them transform. They'll highlight bits and then they'll practice a bit. What a lot of people do is they read the whole book quickly and expect then to be this brilliant presenter. All the techniques are in there, but what to do is take one at a time, practice it, and then get better.
Mm-hmm.
Even just doing the echo technique, as we talked about earlier, it seems simple, but you'd be surprised how difficult people find it. When I'm training them, I say, no, you've got to echo the exact words.
Yeah, and then you got to echo the exact words.
Yeah. See, one of the issues is when you're doing, getting back to what we talk about, on the communication side, with the comment, the way not to do it is this, Chris. If I said to you something like, so I ask you, so what's your favorite hobby? Let's just say you say shooting. Okay, you're out shooting in the country. I say, oh, shooting, that's interesting. I went shooting once. Did you know I once went up to the north of Scotland? We went away and we were in this little lodge. We were there for 4 days and the weather was, it's not about me. It's a short comment. Something like, shooting, that sounds interesting. I once went shooting. It was great. Tell me, what is it you like about shooting? Right? That's the way we do it.
Yeah. So anything more you want to pitch out before we go?
Yeah, well, just I've got a number of books. I'll just run through the ones for people that are interested. So we've got the How to Talk to Anybody. We've got the public speaking one, How to Speak Effectively Without Fear. Mm-hmm. There's the sales book, which is actually got some neat mind stuff in that. Some really good stories in that. Inside the Mind of Sales. That was the first one. Mm-hmm. There's a mindset book, How to Eliminate Negative Thinking. Mm-hmm. There's the body language book, How to Read Anybody. A negotiation book, The Art of Negotiation, How to Master Getting to Yes. And public speaking, How to Speak Effectively Without Fear. So those are the 6 ones. And they sell very well all over the world.
Yeah, you're doing excellent with them. Any future books maybe you're working on or projects you're planning you want to tease out?
Yeah, at the moment I'm having a little pause in the writing. I've got a couple of topics in mind, Chris, but the main thing for me to work on is I'm looking at doing a mastermind group. So that's a subscription service, so people can then get live coaching from me, and also to do some training material as well, so people can actually get a course. I'm a big fan of online courses. I spent a lot of money of my own money on courses to learn various different skills, some esoteric, because I quite like that stuff, as well. And it's a great way to learn because you can play it, stop it, rewind it, do it, on to the next bit. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. And then I've got a new YouTube channel coming out, which is going to be featuring YouTube shorts. So they're going to be no more than a minute long with lots of tips on communication, to get to the point quickly, because people don't want to listen to me for hours and hours, do they?
That's what they tell me on the podcast. You know, it's funny sometimes if a guest isn't carrying the show or presenting well, I have to jump in and fill, right? Because on a very rare case, I'll get a guest who's like just giving one-word answers. You know, like, tell me about your book, or give us a 30,000 review about your book, and they're like, it's a book about business. And you're like, dude, we got a half an hour here, man. We got some time to kill. You gotta help me out, man. And you know, and then later, and so usually I'll end up filling in with the story or something, with more stories than I normally do. Sometimes I'll just dominate because I'm just like, well, if you're not going to do this, then fuck you. I'm just going to roll because I don't want my audience to fall asleep. And then they'll still write me on YouTube, and they're like, you need to let the guest talk more. And I'm like, that was one where the guest wasn't talking for shit.
Yeah, it's quite tricky. Some people are naturally good at it. The problem is getting to shut up. I probably fall in that category, is getting to shut up.
No, you're
talking
more.
But some people that they're struggling a bit, you know, and it's really it's hard work. You got to use a lot of open questions, and then you know you've really got to keep digging. It's just a matter of digging. It's in there somewhere. Once you find the hot button, everybody's got a hot button, Chris. Even the desire. Everybody has a desire. Even the desire not to have a desire is a desire. Right, so you know everybody has that. It's just a matter of poking around and prodding and trying to find what it is that makes them tick. But once you press it, you'll be off.
Yeah, and I mean this works in so many different things. Like I use it for business. I use it for social. I've been single all my life, so I use it for dating. Being able to impress someone in conversation and, you know, carry a conversation so you don't look like a Neanderthal moron, because I kind of look like a Neanderthal moron with my resting bitch face, can really help. And it just helps you with interpersonal relationships. And I mean, some of the best stories I've ever collected, best people I've ever met, sometimes they changed my life with their stories or their interactions in my life from me just being opening them up to their stories, and then later finding out that this sounds like a person I'd love to have a good friendship with. You know, it's changed my life in so many ways. And like I say, with you, I was the same way. I was an introvert. I was a people watcher. You couldn't get me to talk to anybody. And so, you know, when people tell me, well, I'm an introvert, so I can't do what you do, Chris. Like, no, you can. You just have to train yourself. So you can, and there's actually somebody that I went on a course with, and it was quite a strange thing that happened, Chris, because the guy was hugely charismatic on stage, and he had this presence, and he could hold your attention for 2-3 days. But yet, when you met him in the evening, you looked at him and thought, "Is this the same guy?" It's almost like I thought, "Have you got a doppelganger? Have you swapped? Is this your twin brother?" Because he kind of lost this. So it's really, I was saying to the guys I was doing training last week, people have got to realize it's a show. When you're doing presenting, or even when you're going out and you're doing small talk, it's a bit of a show. You have to get the energy levels up. You got to get the excitement and the enthusiasm up. If you don't, if you just end up with a monotone voice that goes like that, and after a while people just eventually fall asleep because you become a bit boring with the monotone voice going on and on. And you've got to put a bit of excitement into it, you know? Yeah. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I've been on podcasts like that where you're wondering if the host is dead and he's just as hungry. You know what I'm saying? None in recent memory, folks. But you got to make it exciting, and timing is important too. You know, the show runs kind of on a metronome, and being able to hop with energy and fill it, because you know, if you're pulling across boring, like, well, tell me about, I guess you. You know, that doesn't sound very interesting or energetic. Like, no one's people are like, well, you don't seem very interested, right? You know, so energy and stuff is important, I think, too.
Yeah, you absolutely, you got to be interested. I mean, and there's a few other techniques as well. I mean, I'll share a couple others if you want, actually, just for fun for people. Yeah. One of the things to be aware of is that this is hopefully help people in their business communication, and really in any form of communication, and that is people tend to resist what they're told, but they accept what they conclude. So something you have to give people a reason for it. So if I said to you, Chris, get us a coffee, will you? The little voice inside your head goes, F you, get your own coffee, right?
What am I, your bitch?
but exactly, not my bitch. But if I turned around and said to you, Chris, could you get me a coffee? Because I'm just about to jump on an important client for a $50 million deal. Oh. It sounds plausible. Yeah.
Plus, I'm going to want to cut of that action.
Yeah, and what I've done as well, Chris, is I've also given you an escape route there. But I've changed the weighting so that it's more in my favor, because if you said no, it would appear a bit unreasonable. So always try and give people, give them some context. One of the people will tend to do things if you give them, and actually the research bears this out. If I was walking along the street and let's just say it was the neighborhood you live in, Chris, and there was a lot of litter around, and I said to you, Chris, we fill in this survey on litter, you'd probably say no. But if I said to you, look, we're looking at investing in cleaning up the area so it's nice for everyone, make it nice and safe for you, your family, the kids, and all this. Would you like to help us with this by filling in the survey? It's more likely that you will do that because I've given you a reason to do it. Yeah. So that's one of the key things. The other thing as well is if you think about you've got to be a little bit different. You see, I've got my waistcoat on today, so this is actually the Borthwick tartan waistcoat. Now, there is actually a village, Borthwick, not far from Edinburgh, where I live in Scotland, and there's also Borthwick Castle. Now, there's not many Borthwicks around, Chris, so we either weren't very good with the ladies or we were terrible in battle because there's not many of us around. But this is the Borthwick. So I wear this because it's a little bit different, and you go, well, what's that guy wearing? It's multicolored. What's going on here? So that's what you call a pattern interrupt. Now, you have to, when you're in business or anything for that matter, if you think about the people when you're walking down the street, Chris, the only people that you will remember are the very attractive looking people. Okay, let's not go there. Someone who looks unusual and someone who's behaving unusually. Okay, everything else goes why, and that's because the brain operates as a pattern recognition device, and it's a predictive mechanism. So the world is pretty much as you predicted. Now, if somebody was walking along to you along the street dressed as Batman, then that's going to stand out. You're going to go, what happens is you come out of your little trance and you go, oh, what's going on here? And the reptile brain comes in, you go, do I want to fight, flight, or there is another F, but we'll leave that one out as well. And then what happens is you get an emotional response. So you may think, hey, I've always wanted to be Batman. Wouldn't it be cool to be dressed as Batman? Yeah. You may be jealous. You may actually be annoyed. You may be angry, think it's silly. And then you have that moment where you walk down the street, Chris. You know that moment where afterwards you go, why would somebody be dressed as Batman at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning in the middle of town? Why would they do that? It's weird.
Maybe it's the real Batman.
Well, it could be, you never know. You never know. It would be good if it was, wouldn't it? So this is an example of how you want to be a little bit different. Now, what do a lot of people do if you think about it let's use a dating term as well. Imagine you saw somebody you like. Let's say I saw an attractive woman. I'm quite safe. I've got 3 kids and a partner. Well, let's just say I spotted a lady at the bus stop and I thought, you know what? I want to get married to her. So what I'll do is I'll wander over and give her a list of 10 very logical reasons as to why we should get married. It's not going to work very well.
Not very well, no.
There's no emotional connection. So if that's the way the brain works when we're in a social environment, it's not any different in business either. You still got to go. What do we do in business? We try and logic somebody into decision. We then hope they're interested, and then latterly we're not seen as a threat. That's not the way the brain works. It's the other way around. So we need to build an emotional connection, whether it's in business or dating or with your family, your kids, your friends. That's the secret. And I can't emphasize that enough. It's all very well. You know what it's like? It's an artist. I could give you all the steps, but it's paint by numbers. If you can get the emotional content involved and a desire to connect and a curiosity, develop curiosity, you'll find that you'll become a lot more interesting and communicate a lot better as well.
It will change your life, people. It's changed mine. One of my favorite thing I love more than anything is podcasting, talking to people and collecting stories. And I think that's the reason a lot of podcasters aren't fully successful, is because they just want to go through the motions. I'm going to talk to people. And I've seen some hosts that the show really is always about them, no matter who the person is they have on, and they tend to dominate. And you're like, I get it when sometimes I get that YouTube thing, but usually it's a failure of the guest to be interesting. So I'm just like, I'm filling the show. The worst thing you can have in radio is dead air. And people tend to watch all our shows all the way through. Like 96% of our shows are watched all the way through. And I think at the end they go, "Oh, Chris is wrapping the show, skip to the next one." So we know the consumption's there. And so a lot of times, even if I have a bad guest, I can kind of save it with jokes, or I can save it with my stories. But yeah, I'll still get hate every now and then. Why do you let the guests talk more? We tried.
We tried, he wouldn't talk.
we kept asking them, and they're like, so tell us about what you do for work. Well, I show up on Monday. Okay.
It's really tough. There's nothing worse when you're in that. I've had that before. And sometimes you just have to admit defeat. You can try everything. And sometimes, because guess what, Chris? People don't follow the script.
Yeah.
And you know what? Life would be so much easier if everyone was just a bit more like us.
Yeah. To tell another joke, we had one poor gentleman on the show, a wonderful guy, great book, but he just blanked, and I think maybe it was stage fright, but he blanked on what there was like 5 steps or something to success in his book or something. And so I asked him, I go, what are the 5 steps if you can touch on them? Well, we've all written books, so we've spent 50 million hours in editing and then talking about the thing, so you should know what's in your book. But I think he just got stage fright. We all do, and he blanked.
Oh dear!
And I was like, so I had to film it. He goes, I don't know what they are. Off the top of my head. And I'm like, you wrote the book.
You wrote the book. Sometimes I get confused with what's in what book, because I've got 6 of them. So
you're losing track of who's where.
In that book, yeah. But sometimes you go, was it in that book or that book? But all my books, the first half is how the mind works, and it's the psychological biases, and then after that, there's a step-by-step part. But the key part, whether you're negotiating, whether you're speaking in public, whether you're talking to somebody, even reading and learning body language, some people, if you're not careful, it can become a bit paint by numbers. When you're doing the mirroring, you end up like this. It's kind of very jagged, and it like a sort of old-fashioned movie. The old ones where they used to look very sort of jerky. Yeah. So you want to try and flow with it. You'll actually find that if you have rapport with somebody, you will actually mirror them naturally. Your body language will mirror. And it's very, very powerful. This is not manipulative. It's something we do as human beings.
Yeah.
Next time you do that, just watch that with somebody. And I'll give you viewers a little tip as well. This is a great one. If you want to show you're listening, all you do is you tilt your head slightly to one side, about 15 to 20 degrees, and just nod occasionally. Now, when you're presenting, or if you're speaking and you see, or you're dating, the body language in dating is a bit different. So you'll start to see the head tilt. But if it's a female you're speaking to, you'll see the head tilt back. You actually see neck exposure, so the head goes back as well. So and you asymmetric body language. There's a chapter in my book on the whole dating thing. It's different to the business side, but we'll leave that aside for 1 minute. Just in regular conversation, you'll see people's heads will tilt to the side and nod if they're interested. Now, as soon as you see that, you've got rapport with them. Now, a little trick. I'll share you a little secret. Perhaps I shouldn't do this. I don't know. Now, when I was in boring business meeting years ago, right, I won't mention the company, I used to get a bit bored, Chris. So what I'd do is I'd just tilt my head to one side and I would just nod occasionally. Now, the only problem was they said, well, what do you think, Derek? And I would then have to turn around and say, well, I'm pretty much with everybody else on this one.
Pretty much with everyone else. I like that.
The art of vague language, it's always very, very useful. So these are body language tricks that you can use. I'll share another one that I think this will be fun for your viewers. Okay. They're going to love this one. And I urge them to try it. And I'll give you a little story about this, how it came about. I'd actually heard about this. It was from a famous hypnotist called Dave Dobson, and I'd learned it from another trainer. And it's called the eyebrow flash. Okay, now it's something that mammalians do when they meet each other. When it's a sign of friendship. So it's a quick flick up and down of the eyebrows. Now, I'd read about this, and I'd been taking my son when he was younger in his buggy or stroller, as you say in the US, along to the nursery or kindergarten. So I was walking along with him, and every day the couple would appear at the same time. And I would try and engage with them because I live in Edinburgh. Edinburgh's not the most friendly of places. Sorry to people from Edinburgh, but it's not, So these people were, I'll be in trouble now with my Scots colleagues. They were, so they would come on the other side of the road, and I would try and engage them, Chris. And this was going on for months, and I couldn't. And all of a sudden, one day, I flashed my eyebrows at it. The guy immediately jumped out his trance. And from that moment on, when he saw me, he started waving.
Really?
And I taught this to one of my executive clients, and he was a little bit wary. He thought, I'm not sure about this. So he was in the gym and he just flashed his eyebrows when he met somebody. And this guy came over and said, do we know each other? I'm sure we've met before.
Wow.
So it's incredibly powerful. You will actually see that in a dating context. Now, I don't know if they're able to see me on this, to see the camera here, but it's not the eyebrows going up and down like this in a creepy sort of way. It's just a natural up and down flash. Now, which is a raising and lowering of the eyebrows. Try
that must
it.
be what I'm doing wrong. Because I do it.
Now, you don't always get it between male and female because sometimes it can be seen as an attractive signal depending on who it is and if they don't want to catch your eye. But generally, if males, you'll see with another male, you'll often do this, and females do it. Females will do it as well, just not if they want to give out signals of attraction.
Yeah,
it's fun as well. You'll love it.
That depends on if she's attracted to you or not, basically.
Well, yeah, and there's all sorts of things like the pupil dilating and all that. I'm a bit old for that now, Chris.
Yeah. See, people usually when I'm on dates, I get that head turning thing, but usually it's like a nod off and a yawn. Falling asleep, listen to this.
Is that what you give them, cocoa, Chris, and read them a bedtime story?
Pretty much, yeah. So as we go out, pitch people on how to reach out to you, get to know you better, and order up your books.
Yeah, sure. Please link in with me. You'll find me on LinkedIn. It's Derek Borthwick. You'll find me all the books on Amazon as well. The website is power and then the number 2 and then mind.com. And you'll find the books on there, the audio books, links to Amazon to get them. And I say I'll have some online training courses come up soon. And I'll have a membership area where I'll be doing live coaching and sharing information with people so they can actually get to interact with me and learn these skills.
Awesome sauce. Well, this has been fun. Thank you very much, Derek, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me on. It's great.
Thank you. And thanks so much for tuning in. Order up the book Where Refined Books Are Sold by Derek. You can read the book, How to Talk to Anybody. Learn the secrets to small talk, business management, sales, and social conversations, and how to make real friends. Because God knows you can get fake friends pretty easy in this world. I've seen them on Twitter. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. Chris Voss, one of the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time. And that should have us out.